is the appointed hour, so if we can call this meeting to order. We actually have two processes that we will be undergoing here this afternoon. The first, we will be sitting as the Board of Commissioners for the Canyon County Ambulance District, and we will hear from their director, Rob Hickey, as far as the presentation on the budget. So we'll call this meeting to order. All three commissioners are present here. And I'd like to turn it over at this point to Rob Hickey for a presentation on the ambulance district budget.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you. As stated, I'm Rob Hickey. I'm the Chief of the Department for Canyon County Ambulance District, and I'm here to present the tentative budget for fiscal year 2018. Maybe. There we go. Whoops. Too many. There's some handouts up front, if this is hard for you to see, but this is essentially summarizes the budget in the right-hand column under FY 2018, and then it compares it to last year's budget. And what we'll note, obviously, we've had an increase in call volume, which of course increases our A budget due to salaries and overtime. And then as you go down the column, you'll see that we have some capital expenses and purchases that are increased. One of those, as it relates to the purchase of the currently owned by St. Al's Health System, the purchase of the building and the property adjacent to the building for our current station down by the Nampa Rec Center. And that's about a $250,000 purchase. And then beyond that, we need to replace 3 ambulances in our fleet, and that'll be a lease purchase. And that's what accounts for that increase there. Let's see. We just recently had a public hearing and we increased our user fees. That was approved and went into effect August 1st, and that will gross about $1 million, about $132,000 a month. And we anticipate that that will help offset some of our growth and need for the future. And as the volume increases, as our fees and structures increase, so does the write-off and bad debts. CMS, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, they set user fees for their patients, and it's an automatic required write-off when that occurs, so you'll see those numbers follow through. So our what we call bad debt or uncollectible fees increases along with those increases. So we move along. This picture shows us the intended purchase after the first of the year. That green area there, the building on the left, and then that property to the direct east of that is intended to be purchased, and then at some point in the future we intend to remodel that. What we have is, St. Alphonsus, this is not working so well, but St. Alphonsus, you'll see 12th Avenue Road, north and south. That new St. Al's standalone ER will have 10 observation beds, but then it's just an ER. There's no admission capability. So typically, we're told from the new management structure for that facility, these people are going to be moved if they take longer than an hour to treat and street. And so therefore, that puts a burden on us. So that ambulance down there is quite busy for that. We moved them from that facility to the plaza up on Garrity in the middle of June, and we've seen an uptick of 2 transfers a day, according to the data, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's over 700 calls in a year, and somebody has to run those calls, and that's us. 3 more ambulances, as I said. Those are about $160,000 for the chassis and the box, and we have about a 6-year cycle on those. Initially, they're primary out, and then they go to a backup status, and I think with this purchase, we'll be in a position to start remounting, and that costs, that's a savings of about 50%. Take the box, refurbish it, place it back on a new chassis, and then the items that go in the back of that ambulance is about $100,000. So we're able to transfer those to the new ones, and then we'll remount as we go forward. So they're not in addition to what we have. They're to replace current, what we follow with the data as far as what's costing us the most, and we'll delete those from our system. We have 8 ambulances a day. This budget supports that. One of those ambulances is 12 hours a day. We have 1 ALS chase vehicle that supports Homedale, Wilder, and Parma, and the west side of the county with advanced life support first response. And then if Homedale calls, or Wilder, or Parma, we get in the back with our paramedic and take care of the patient to the hospital. We have one supervisor out of Nampa and 8 stations that we own or lease, and we're co-housed with Middleton, or excuse me, 5 of those stations are owned by us, or our responsibility, and then 3 of the 8 we're co-housed and partnered with Middleton Fire, Nampa Fire, and Wilder Fire. And we have a maintenance facility off of Franklin and Nampa. And year-to-date, our request for services were, as of midnight last night, 10,791 requests for service, which equates to 49.27 calls a day. And we're on track for almost 18,000 calls this year. When we compare it to last year, we're up about 4 calls a day. And we did 16,608. Now, that's requests for service. If you look at how many patients that we took care of, you add a couple hundred to that because we have multiple patient scenes, but they're only given one run number. So that's what we do, and that's how we do it, and that's what this budget's for. And I guess I will entertain questions.
Okay. Have any questions for Director Hickey? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing for anyone who has comments regarding the ambulance district budget. I have no one signed up specifically for that. Is there anyone here who would wish to address the board?
Seeing no movement, I'll make the motion we close public hearing.
Second. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Canyon County Ambulance District budget for fiscal year 2018.
Okay.
Second.
And that would be a motion to sign the resolution?
Yes. Yes, excuse me. Sign the resolution approving the budget.
All right.
I'm good with that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve a resolution authorizing the ambulance district budget for 2017 and 18. Moving forward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Approved. Thanks, Rob, and thanks Michael, and everybody who worked on this budget long and hard. Really appreciate that work, and we appreciate the work that the ambulance district personnel does daily to keep our citizens served adequately with our ambulances and emergency services. Thank you. All right, this time we will close that meeting as the Ambulance District Board of Commissioners, and we'll open the meeting. We're now sitting as the Board of Canyon County Commissioners, here to consider the 2017-2018 budget proposal. And with that, I think I will turn it over to our controller, Zach Wagoner. He's going to walk us through the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Dale. And I'd like to say thanks to the commissioners for the time and effort and energy they've put forth into the development and preparation of this budget. I'd also like to thank the elected officials that are in the audience today and the department administrators. This is not an easy process. There's a tremendous amount of time, effort, energy, and thought that goes into developing a budget, and then throughout the fiscal year, monitoring the budget and keeping track of what's actually being spent and making sure we're staying within our budgetary guidelines. So I appreciate the work, the effort, and the understanding that this is the public's money, and we are about the public's business. And there's a certain amount of trust that has been placed in us, and I feel that that attitude is very prevalent here at Canyon County. So thank you for your work and your efforts. As we began work on the 2018 budget, we identified 3 key priorities. Those priorities were to minimize the property tax request, and that can be done by maximizing and fully utilizing all other revenue sources. The county's budget is funded 53% by property tax. There are other charges for services, other fees that the county is able to collect, and it's appropriate that we look at those fees and we charge an equitable, fair fee for the service that's being provided. We also need to preserve and protect the county's levels of fund balance. We need to maintain appropriate levels of reserve. We also need to provide funding for statutorily required obligations. There are certain mandated obligations that rest upon the county. Some of those relate to our responsibilities for indigent medical care and indigent public defense, and we need to levy the appropriate amount of property tax dollars to provide those required services. But in order to minimize the property tax request, the fiscal year 2018 budget includes $3 million of fund balance that has been reassigned for property tax relief. The county had $6 million of assigned fund balance set aside for capital projects or capital improvements. The county has decided to take $3 million of that $6 million and allocate it to the 2018 budget for property tax relief. That does not jeopardize the county's financial health in any way. I believe that it is a wise move, it's a prudent move to keep the property tax request as low as we possibly can. Another key priority for the 2018 budget is our people. County is in the business of providing services, and those services are provided by our employees. And we need to invest in and retain our essential personnel. So to that end, the budget includes $2.7 million invested for salaries and benefits to continue the rollout of the compensation plan. Also, the budget includes $10.2 million for the employer funding of the county's health insurance program. Third priority was to prepare and plan for the future. We recommend following a suitable plan for capital items to be replaced. We also need to cautiously evaluate downstream costs of current decisions. And along those lines, the 2018 tentative budget includes no expansion of county government. It includes a freeze on new and additional positions. Overall, the 2018 tentative expenditure budget is $89,305,778. $62.5 million of that is budgeted for salaries and benefits. $26.7 million is budgeted for other operating expenditures, for the grand total of $89.3 million. That total is a little more than $2 million less than the fiscal year 2017 expenditure budget. If we break that down by salaries and benefits, the salaries and benefits portion is increased $1.6 million from 2017, and the other operating expenditures budget is a decrease of $3.6 million from fiscal year 2017. Some of the significant line items in the fiscal year 2018 tentative other operating expenditures budget include $2.5 million budgeted for involuntary mental commitments under indigent medical care and assistance, $1.5 million budgeted for medical provider payments under indigent medical care and assistance, $945,000 is budgeted for the county's contribution to Southwest District Health. In the landfill enterprise fund, $773,000 is budgeted for a scraper. In the sheriff's budget, $750,000 has been set aside for investment in public safety vehicles. In the tort fund, $683,000 is budgeted for the county's annual liability insurance premium. And also in the sheriff's budget, the county jail food service budget amount is $630,000. The next page outlines the expenditure budget by function. And under the umbrella of culture and recreation, that is $2.6 million, or 3% of the county's total budget. Public Works is $5.1 million, or 6% of the overall budget. Public Safety represents 45% of the total county budget at over $40 million. Health, welfare, and indigency account for 12% of the total county budget at $10.7 million, and general government services at $30 million account for 34% of the county's budget. And the next page shows that in a pie chart form. Page number 6 begins a more detailed look at the expenditure budgets by office and department. It includes a column for the 2017 budgeted amount compared to the 2018 tentative budget amount. And I will touch on a few of the offices and departments that have experienced significant budget changes from 2017 to 2018. In the building and grounds department, that budget has decreased nearly $6 million from 2017. And that's as a result of the jail expansion project that was included in the 2017 budget. The clerk, auditor, and recorder budget is down nearly $100,000. That is due to a computer environment upgrade that took place in fiscal year 2017, and also a scanning project for the clerk's office was included in the 2017 budget that is not included in the 2018 budget. The budget for the clerk of the court has increased. That is due to a change in accounting practices. The fees the county pays for interpreter services previously were paid from the trial court administrator's budget. And for fiscal year 2018, that $120,000 has been shifted to the budget for the clerk of the court. The consolidated elections budget includes $40,000 for professional consultants regarding polling location accessibility. And the consolidated elections department is funded entirely by monies from the state. There is no property tax dollars allocated to consolidated elections activities. The coroner's budget is increased due to a vehicle replacement. $36,000 has been included in the coroner's office budget to replace a vehicle. The county fair. The 2018 budget for the county fair includes $155,000 for building repairs, maintenance, and upgrades. In the county fleet department, county fleet 2018 budget includes $50,000 to epoxy the shop floor and also $200,000 for vehicle upfitting. The emergency communications budget has decreased roughly $500,000 from 2017. That is due to the purchase of communications equipment that was included in the 2017 budget and will not be part of the 2018 budget. The emergency management budget is down $60,000 from 2017. That is due to, in fiscal year 2017, the emergency management budget was opened and adjusted mid-year for the breach that occurred in the Boise River. So this year, we added $75,000 during the fiscal year for that breach repair work that was done. Our general department includes a line item for reserves for any unexpected or any unanticipated events that may occur in fiscal year 2018. And we've increased that reserve amount from $250,000 to $500,000. There's a decrease in the human resources budget. They have decided to unfund one full-time position for fiscal year 2018. The information technology budget has increased roughly $400,000. That includes $126,000 for equipment at the print shop, $60,000 for additional software licensing costs, and additional funds for positions that were added during fiscal year 2017. Next page, the Indigent Medical Care and Assistance Office, that budget has increased over right around $1 million. And that includes the increased costs that the county is experiencing related to involuntary mental commitments and medical provider payments. Those are statutory obligations that rest upon the county that we are mandated, required to pay for. The motor vehicle budget, the 2018 budget includes $50,000 for workstation upgrades and remodeling at the motor vehicles office. Our Parks, Cultural, and Natural Resources budget has increased $110,000. That includes $63,000 for a truck and 2 side-by-side UTVs, and also includes $40,000 for a well at the museum. The prosecuting attorney's budget, the increase there is tied directly to the continued implementation of the county's compensation plan. The sheriff's budget, the increases there are also tied to the continued implementation of the compensation plan, and also included in the sheriff's budget is the $750,000 for public safety vehicles. The trial court administrator, their budget has decreased, and that's again tied to the interpreter fees that in 2017 were paid from the trial court administrator's budget. Those interpreter fees have been reallocated, moved to the clerk of the court budget for 2018. So the total Canyon County operating budget, $89.3 million. County also has 2 special taxing districts. These taxing districts are not county-wide. These districts cover the unincorporated areas of Canyon County. There are 2 special taxing districts. There's the Pest Control District and the Melba Gopher District. And those budgets are, for the Pest Control District, $208,312, and $12,000 for the Melba Gopher District. Where does the money come from to make all this happen? 53% comes from the current property tax levy of $46,978,570. $14 million comes from intergovernmental revenue. That would be largely sales tax money that we receive from the state and other funds from the state and federal government. Nearly $13 million comes from charges for services. $10 million is fund balance, and $5.3 million comes from permits, licenses, and others. Total funding, $89.3 million, a balanced budget. The next page talks about the county's property tax levy authority for fiscal year 2018. The county has the statutory authority to levy $53.6 million in property tax to support the fiscal year 2018 budget. That amount is calculated in accordance with state law and includes the following: the highest property tax budget and property tax replacement of the last 3 years, $43.8 million. On top of that is a 3% allowable increase. That 3% amount is $1.3 million. Also included is the new construction and development increase. That's any new properties that have been built and recently occupied in the county. Those are added to the available property tax, and that amount is $1 million. Also included are property tax increases that were foregone in prior years. So in prior years, the county has chosen not to take our 3% and not to take our new construction increase, and that total that's been saved there is $8 million. We also have $225,000 available for judgment levies. Those are related to when the State Board of Tax Appeals has lowered assessed values during the middle of a fiscal year, resulting in decreased property tax collections. We're allowed to recoup or recapture that in the following year. And we subtract away any property tax replacement monies provided by the state. So again, the maximum allowable property tax levy is $53,697,270. The tentative property tax request is $46,978,570, meaning that the county is $6.7 million below our full property tax levy authority. The next page shows how that equates to a levy rate. It is estimated that the county's fiscal year 2018 levy rate will be 2% lower than fiscal year 2017's levy rate. That estimated levy rate is 0.00416. And the reason that is currently estimated is we are still waiting on the state to provide us what they call, what is known as operating property values. That would be like your railroads, your Idaho Powers. Those properties are assessed by the state, and those values have not yet been finalized. Those are, in reality, a very small portion of the county's $11 billion of taxable value. So I do not anticipate much, if any, change in that levy rate. Property taxes are levied at the fund level. The term fund is very unique and specific to governmental accounting. And a fund is an accounting tool to separate activities and functions carried out by the government. It's designed to provide a higher level of clarity, a higher level of transparency as to where these monies are being spent. So property taxes are truly levied by funds. They are fund specific. And this chart shows the breakdown of the $46.9 million of the county's levy. The largest portion of that, 35% of the levy, goes to the Justice Fund to support the activities of the county sheriff. The second largest goes to the current expense fund. That's 22% of the county's levy, and that supports the county commissioners, the prosecuting attorney, the clerk, the coroner, facilities, those type of activities. And nearly 20% of the property tax levy is for indigent medical care, assistance, and public defense. And in order to provide, again, clarity and transparency as to where the property tax dollars are being allocated, the functions, the activities financially of the public defender have been moved to the county's indigent fund for fiscal year 2018. The county has talked about that for many years, and we decided to make that reality this year. And again, that is strictly an accounting exercise in an effort to provide clarity as to where the property tax dollars, where the money's being spent. Page 16 shows a summary of the county budget. In the county operating budget, $89.3 million. $32.5 million of that comes from revenue other than property tax. $46.9 million from property tax, $10 million from fund balance. And we're projecting a ending countywide fund balance amount of $46 million at the end of this fiscal year, and that then a budgetary fund balance amount at the end of 2018 of $36 million. Separated below are the special taxing districts. Again, those are separate taxing districts, the pest control district and the Melba Gopher district. Because not every taxpayer in the county contributes to those two districts, they are shown separately. And they do have their own separate funds, fund balance, separate levies. Again, there's been a significant amount of work from a large number of people in developing this budget and putting this budget together. It is a challenging task. It's challenging to balance needs and wants and to also do what we can to minimize the property tax burden. And I feel that what we've arrived at is a good budget. It's financially, fiscally sound, and it's fiscally responsible. It makes good use of the public's money. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, any questions for Zach at this point? Thank you for the work you've put in there in your office and all the folks that have helped put this budget together. And yeah, I also want to echo your thanks to the elected officials who have worked on this budget and all the department directors who have helped to bring their desires and their needs. I really view that part of our job as, the biggest part of our job as commissioners is to administrate the funds and to go over this budget with a fine-tooth comb and to try to do as well as we can to make your jobs doable. That's our job. At this point, we're going to open the...
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
Zach, are raises for the elected officials included in this budget?
Yes, they are included.
How much money did the sheriff's department turn back in fiscal year, after the fiscal year 2016?
How much money were they under budget in fiscal year
How much
2016?
did they turn back at the end of their 2016 fiscal year?
I can get that for you here in just a second.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
while he's looking that up, I might just mention that within our budget, approximately 10%, varies from year to year, but approximately 10% of the budget is not expended. Why is that? And mostly that is a budget, and a budget is personnel cost. And so we have, the sheriff's office has the biggest amount of the money that it's not actually turned back, it's just not spent of their budget. The reason is they are have unfilled positions. Now, pretty much everybody in the system has unfilled positions, and that's why at the end of the fiscal year, we're always underspent in that area. And that is why we actually use that 10% approximate number to, that won't actually be funded with property tax with our budget. Now, I might mention, too, the reason we're going to pay particular attention now, from now on, with what that percentage is that with our employee retention program, in other words, we've brought up wages with the salary compensation study, we've done some things with the benefits. We think that we will see less and less turnover, and consequently less of that, so we're going to probably have to change the way we budget.
Commissioner Rule, nearly $1.4 million.
How much did the sheriff's budget increase this year over last year's request?
It's a $1 million increase.
Last year, there was a $6.5 million line item for construction projects in last year's budget.
Correct.
And there's not one in this year's budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Commissioner White?
I don't have any questions.
Zach, I just want one clarification on the sheriff's budget again. Refresh my memory on the positions. They deleted 3 or 4?
I met with Chief DeShiel, and they unfunded 3 positions.
Okay, so they unfunded 3, so there's 3 positions fewer in the sheriff's department than they were budgeted for last year.
Correct, and total budget savings were $250,000 for those 3 positions.
Okay, and those are ongoing savings as well. All right, if there are no more questions from the board, we'll move to the public hearing portion. And I have 2 people signed up. We'll start with Kathy Alder. And if you will put your name and address on the record, and we'll give you some time. We're not going to be real strict on it, but try to hold it down at 3 to 5 minutes.
I don't know if I can control myself.
Okay.
My name is Kathy Alder. I live at 6522 Baseline Road in Melba, Idaho. And thank you, Commissioners, and I appreciate the work that's done on the budget. Of course, I do have concerns. When I left office 3 years ago, the property tax was $34 million. And with this budget, that increases it to $12 million in property tax increases in 3 years. And to me, that's frightening. That's what we're doing to county residents. I just hope that as you consider this budget and consider salary increases, I have no problem with what's gone on for the employees. And I think that's great that you have a program that gives them an incentive to stay with the county. But I think you need to keep in mind that the average household income is $48,000 in Canyon County. And so we need to be mindful of what we're asking those people to pay in order to keep the county functioning. I am concerned the fact that there was a $91 million budget last year, and over $6 million of that was for the expansion of the jail, which you turned down, which is fine. You did that, but I thought you would remove that also from the budget since you did not move forward with the expansion. And so I can understand, number one, that you've reduced the budget, even the $2 million that you took out instead of $6 million, but the fact that you lowered the budget $2 million, but you raised property taxes $4 million, that makes no sense. I've just not been involved where you would lower a budget and increase property taxes. I don't understand that. I don't think it's necessary. I think there's probably some, well, I think that maybe the budget could be inflated, and there are some places that could be cut. And I would encourage you to really be responsible with these tax dollars, and if possible, go back, relook at this budget, and instead of increasing the property tax, just holding it where it is and taking an increase of $4 million. That is a lot of money to the property owners of this county, and that's my big concern. $12 million in 3 years. Where will it be? That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Next, we have Larry Stevenson.
I apologize for my voice. This allergies and the smoke quality, air quality we got. I'm glad we've got some paramedics here. But
Yeah.
anyway, if I need some oxygen, we can get it.
Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
What's that?
Name and address for the record.
Larry Stevenson, 15769 Yoder Avenue, Caldwell, Idaho, for about 68 years, something like that. Anyway, my hat's off to Canyon County. Chris and Zach have done a very conservative job over the years. I know the commissioners have had issues on the jail. That's always a controversial subject. And I met with Pam not too long ago, trying to explore some funding mechanisms for the jail. And I guess I've got some questions. Hopefully, I don't know who could answer them best, but do we have a budgeted line item for capital expenditures for something like the jail? Do we put money away out of the budget every year in a savings account for the jail?
Chairman, I'll give that a go.
Okay.
In last year's budget, Commissioners Hanson and I tried to create that, and actually increased the property taxes sum to help fund this line item for future construction, is what it was called. It wasn't called jail at that point, but
Future construction.
it was a term that everyone seemed to agree on. And this year, that line item has went away. 1.5 million, I'm told in previous budget meetings, were cut from the budget, and that 5 million has been dispersed into this year's budget. That's all I can tell you about that.
Is it possible, because I know,
Why don't we get your questions on the line here, and then we'll answer them after the fact and get input from the auditor as well.
what I'm thinking here, because I'm a rookie, this is the first budget meeting I've come to. And typically, I got the idea from Gene Kewen, taxpayers always complain about their property taxes. And the assessor's office is one function, budgets is the other. So, we've tried to pass 3 bonds for a new, let's call it a justice center, okay? So, the taxpayers of Canyon County have turned it down. We have never got a majority, simple majority, or supermajority to pass it. So obviously, taxpayers don't like to pay for county jails. So I'm wondering if we could incorporate something in the budget annually to create a savings account for major expansions like this, pay ourselves interest on it, and show the taxpayers in Canyon County we're serious about chipping in, saving for these investments instead of hitting them on the head with a bond down the road. Caldwell's been very successful in doing this. I assume Nampa has. You know, a lot of the taxpayers in Canyon County have enough responsibility, K through 12, paying bonds there. And if you take a look at the breakdown of the pie of property taxes, I'm told, I haven't looked at it, but a lot of the bonds are the majority of the property taxes for Canyon County. So the county has done very good in being conservative and holding down that portion of the tax dollar. And that's good. But I know the county is somewhat limited in the funding they can do for these projects, but I think it would be really good if the county could start saving money, because I've talked to some of the elected officials for Canyon County at the state legislature. And why didn't they start saving for it 10 years ago? They have a bunch of money. So as I understand it also, Republic has approached the county with quite a bit of money to help fund maybe this project down the road. Is that where they want to take over the Canyon County landfill? Is that something that's feasible here? I think if we can start being creative, that's a good word, of funding these things, because the jail expansion was a good idea, but it was short term. We need a long-term plan for Canyon County. We're going to continue to grow. We're not going to get smaller. We're going to continue to have crime. You could argue that these pay increases that we want for Kieran's done a good job. He got reelected. Some pretty tough circumstances. Ryan, top-notch prosecutor, but the taxpayer could say, hey, we give these guys some substantial increases in pay, but we can't give them the resources to incarcerate people. That doesn't make sense. So what I'm saying here is I think that we can do better than we're doing in trying to be creative on financing. I know we're limited, but if we can come up with some combination of ideas, not hit the taxpayer with a bond for $50 million to build a justice center.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Let me try to answer a couple questions that were brought up, one by Kathy first, and I'm going to direct this over to Zach. Can you explain the question that Kathy brought up regarding lowering the budget and yet requiring an increase in property tax? Can you explain how that works?
Yes, in previous years, the budget was funded with fund balance. So those fund balances that the county enjoyed were spent. And also over those years, there were some expenses, some ongoing expenses related to medical care, health insurance for the employees that were not adequately funded. So those bills have now come due. In addition to that, our indigent medical care and assistance costs have skyrocketed over the past few years. And those are obligations that we have to pay.
And then could you explain so that help me understand the capital expense line item that Larry was referring to?
In the county's balance sheet, we have fund balance. And last fiscal year, there was $6 million of fund balance assigned for capital projects. So the county decided to assign, which would mean intention, nothing formal or official. We assigned $6 million for capital construction, capital projects. It was decided as we progressed during the 2018 budget that we would take away $3 million of that assignment for capital projects and assign it for property tax relief in the 2018 budget. So that would leave roughly $3 million assigned for capital projects.
Okay, all right.
There's another way to look at this too, and Kathy, I'll have you know, I'm as unhappy about the rising taxes as you are. But, so we can look at, let's call it $10 million that, and well, less than half of that, we had a choice. And that was to take care of our employees with salaries and benefits. The other half is mostly all indigent-type things, whether it be the indigent services, the mental holds that have just gone through the roof. And just so you know, we're on the hook for all of the medical expenses while we have them on that mental hold, and that's killing us right now. So we're looking at some legislative things and like that. But at any rate, you at this budget with let's again call it 10 million. Half of that we had a choice, taking care of the employees. The other half we really have no choice, and it's just what we have with what's going on in society now and with the demographics we have in Canyon County.
All right, thanks for those, answering those questions. I don't have anybody else signed up to speak in the public hearing. Anyone wishing to come forward, this is your opportunity.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So now we're at the point of discussion by the Board of County Commissioners on where we're going to go with this budget.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will just start this off, I guess. Nobody, or almost nobody, I will say, got everything they wanted, including myself, in the budget process. But I have to say, I enjoyed the process. It was handled so professionally. The questions that I heard Commissioner Rule and Commissioner Dale, the way that the questions that were asked and the different ways of looking at some of the needs, I enjoyed the process very, very much. It was very credible. I'm taken by the way that all of the elected officials and the department administrators were so keenly aware of the fact that this is the people's money. There was no greed. There were no demands. There was no grabbing at everything. There was plenty of compromise, and it was just handled very, very well by those individuals involved. The integrity of the clerk and the controller won't be compromised by the 2018 budget. The service levels our county residents pay for will not be compromised by this 2018 budget. The unfunded, and I like what Zach said, statutorily required obligations, okay, will be cautiously addressed, and with fiscally sound budget funding decisions, the needs will be met. Emergencies will not catch the county off guard because there are funds in place to keep us prepared. Our greatest assets, our employees, are now part of a compensation plan that is transparent, forward-thinking, and defendable. I was at 2 different functions with other municipalities so far earlier this year, and both of them said, oh yeah, we really rely on and look to Canyon County as the training grounds for our employees. Those days are over because of decisions that future commissioners made to begin a compensation plan and then moving forward to put it in place. We're not going to be the training ground. This is a plan for retention and to keep the good employees, and the investment we make in them with training will stay right here. And for that, I'm extremely grateful as a taxpayer and a citizen of Canyon County. This county is fiscally prepared to move into the future to address and with eyes wide open and in anticipation 2018 because of prudent planning and conservative budget decisions. And to the department heads and to the clerk controller, my fellow commissioners, thank you very much for your sense of obligation to the taxpayers of Canyon County.
Mr. Rule?
Well, we've been through this exercise in previous meetings. I'm on record with a difference of opinion, a different way of budgeting. Tried to put a plan in place last year that might address future county needs. It was taken away this year. So it's my 11th budget, and my 11 years as commissioner, I've learned, don't trust anybody. I've been deceived by elected officials, and I've seen lots of people who claim to represent the taxpayers that I don't think really did. So a lot of good that's going to do me today, because I've already fought the fight. I could go in and defend lots of opinion and thought and history, and it wouldn't do a bit of good. But I will tell you, I can't support this budget. I'm on record earlier saying so. It's easily the most liberal budget I've been a part of in my 11 years here. I don't support elected officials getting raises. I have a market approach. It's not entitlement to money because somebody in another county makes that much. It's whether or not you can get the job done with the amount of money budgeted. And again, I'm on the record, so I won't go deep into it, but every time an office opens up, we don't have trouble getting qualified applicants to try and become elected to those offices. I don't understand why I'm approving another $1.4 million to a department that turned over $1 million in their last year. I don't understand how 6.5 million turns into a 1.5 or 2 million cut, depending on who I'm talking to at the time, and the rest gets absorbed, and we tell the taxpayers, we've cut your taxes this year. So, I'll be voting no. You guys know that. Everybody here knows that. So I'll let that dog lay right there.
Right. Appreciate the comments. I'll just make a few remarks here, and then we'll take the vote here. I've been through this is my 21st budget with dealing with the public dollars, considering the city of Napa budget, which is over $100 million. I don't know what it's up to now. 120, something like that.
I don't know, I think it's 140 or more.
140, a lot of money. And it is always something that is difficult, and it is always something that those people who work as public servants need to keep in mind, that this is the people's money that has been entrusted to them to invest wisely. Investing wisely means looking at present needs. What do the people expect for their property tax dollars? What do the people expect for their dollars that in the city system they pay for water and sewer? Well, they expect the water to flow and the sewer to go the other way. In the county, we have a different set of needs and desires from our constituents. Some of those, as has been mentioned, are beyond our control. And a large part of the increase in property taxes that we're looking at, in fact, the majority of what we're looking at in property tax increases, is due to those factors that are beyond our control. People are constitutionally accorded the right to have public defense when they're accused of a crime. The state has chosen to push that obligation down in large part to the counties. I'm highly appreciative of the states picking up some of those dollars in their public defense grants that they allocated for the last couple of years, but it still leaves a huge burden on county taxpayers. We also are required to provide medical indigency opportunities for those folks who cannot afford to pay their medical bills. Technically, it's a loan, but in reality, a very small percentage of that ever gets paid back. That's an obligation we have that we have no control over. Southwest District Health is another obligation that we are taking part in. That's close to $1 million now, and that provides healthcare services, inspection services for our food establishments, to make sure that when you go to a restaurant, you eat good food and it's safe. We pay $1 million of that every year to the Southwest District Health District to help with those kinds of expenditures. I am very aware that these property tax dollars and these fees that we are collected, all of the monies that are collected, are given to us to be stewards of. I believe that this budget meets the priorities that have been set as were outlined by our controller in a very responsible manner. Let me reiterate those. Minimize property tax request. We are utilizing $3 million of what I consider a savings fund that I did agree with last year. It was not just two commissioners. I said, this is a good idea. We need to be putting money aside. And we're using some of that money to help reduce the property tax impact. I'm not necessarily comfortable with that, but I am in agreement with it. I think it's a good idea. We are called to invest in and retain essential personnel. We are all public servants in this room who work for the county. It doesn't matter if you are a housekeeper and take care of the cleanliness of these buildings, or if you're a sheriff's deputy, or a paramedic on an ambulance district, or you're working in the clerk's office handling court records. You are a public servant. And we need to be taking care of you in a manner that is respectful of the service that you give. And we are investing in a compensation plan that was developed, started almost 3 years ago, to come up with a plan. This is a rollout. It was implemented last year. It's continuing on to implement this plan so that people can look at that plan and say, I can have a career in Canyon County, and I can make a good living and support my family and provide security for those that I love. That's what we're looking at, to take care of our personnel. And we don't lose those people to other counties after we've invested thousands upon thousands of dollars in training. That's conservative, responsible investment. And then the third priority that was identified is to prepare and plan for the future. I do believe in responsible use of fund balances for certain things, but if you're using a large degree of fund balances for operational costs, you're in essence deficit spending. And you can't do that for long. That's what happened with our self-funded healthcare insurance trust fund. We deficit spent that thing almost down to nothing. And that was a large part of why we had to increase the property tax investment into that part, because it was neglected for several years. We had no choice on that. We can't allow that to go bankrupt. We are investing in people. That's the human assets. We are investing in our facilities. That's the physical assets. and this budget catches us up in some critical areas that have been neglected. We acknowledge that there is a cost to doing business, whether it's a private entity or it's a public service entity such as a city or a county or a state. There is a cost to doing business, and in today's world, there is an increasing cost to doing business. In fact, that's pretty much the reality down through history, that there is an increasing cost to doing business, whether it's private sector or public sector. And we have to acknowledge that cost. This budget acknowledges that cost of doing business and tries to keep us in a position to meet those needs in a responsible manner. I do support this budget. I thank our county controller and our county clerk for helping us walk through this process. And once again, I just am in deep gratitude for all of you who have helped to work this budget through. And I will conclude my remarks with that. I'm ready for motion.
May I make that motion? I will move that, I'm just going to read this, okay? As publicly noticed and pursuant to Idaho Code 31-1604 and 31-1605, the fiscal year 2018 budget hearing for Canyon County be accepted and adopted in the amount of $89,305,778. Also, a fiscal year 2018 expenditure budget for Canyon County Pest Control District in the amount of $208,312, and a fiscal year 2018 expenditure budget for the Melba Gopher District in the amount of $12,000. And I will add, sufficient revenue is anticipated to meet the appropriations of each office, department, service agency, or institution for fiscal year 2018, barring unforeseen emergencies.
Okay. I'll second that motion. I need to ask.
Mr. Chairman.
I need to ask our clerk here.
It was 89,000.
Yeah, she said-
89 million,
We won't-
pardon me.
We won't even get
Yeah.
the paper bill paid.
Thank you. You're right. Oh, I wish you would have said, really, Pam?
Yeah, I noticed
80
that too.
Yeah,
That's a good
I
catch.
totally passed by that
So-
other
so as
comment. $89,305,778.
Right, all right. And I second that, but my question is, we have two motions we have to make. Is it okay to do this one first?
It is.
Okay, all right. So,
I just did.
yeah, and I seconded that motion, so I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
No?
Yes.
Yes. The second motion we have to make is, do you have that one?
I do.
Okay,
Is that the,
okay.
yes. Okay, and I'm going to read this one with the proper numbers. As publicly noticed and pursuant to Idaho Code 63802, parentheses 1, parentheses E, Canyon County's fiscal year 2018 property tax levy of $46,978,570 includes $1,373,479 of available property tax increases foregone in prior years. And I will make a motion, let me see. The fiscal year 2018 budget for indigent medical care and assistance includes an additional $1,950,000 over the fiscal year 2017 adopted budget amount for medical provider payments and involuntary mental commitments. I will make a motion that we approve this as well.
Okay, I'll second that. Roll call vote?
No?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that concludes our public hearing today. I want to thank everybody for your participation, and I hope you have a great afternoon, evening.